Habermas says that Foucault's idea of power is an altogether unsociological concept of the social, which is a mysterious process of socialization. Habermas thinks that Foucault's problem is the way his discourses are articulated, whether scientific or non-scientific in practices. In other words, how to put Foucault's ideas onto the traditional framework of thinking. It seems that Habermas either doesn't understand Foucault's approaches or he disagrees with what Foucault calls problematization, Foucault's own unique way to investigate problems. So Habermas skillfully avoids or minimizes Foucault's framework of thinking and basic approaches.
Habermas, from the standpoint to talk this speaker as the authority, it gives you this view that whether it is scientific or unscientific discourse. Talking about the Foucault's study, once you begin to bracket whoever, at this point is Foucault, next point is somebody else. Once you bracket these people's discourse onto a traditional frame of discourse, which is what Habermas does, he always portrays himself as this authoritative figure to talk about things, which is something scholars do when they get into this sort of discourse. The question is, how do we concern something called the human sciences? Do we need to concern the concept of modernity, how that influences how we look at things? Or do we need to concern whether this is a scientific view or not? That's where we already put ourselves in a position that among all the other so many speaking subjects, and we're one of them, but now, willingly or unwillingly, we have to, or at least this point is Habermas. He has to rise above everybody else to say, I am the authority now. I'm going to tell you what's going on. This is again a problem because from his beginning position, he does not openly tell you, I'm going to be the judge. I'm going to tell you what is going on, which is a typical modern discourse characteristic. No matter who that speaking subject is, when a speaking subject engages into a discourse, immediately that speaking subject become the judge, become the authority. The issue here becomes more complicated. When you set up this way, you always encourage everybody. When you engage this democratic, fair discourse, you become the speaking subject, then you become the authority. But at the same time, as soon as the speaking subject opens his or her speech, everybody begins to say, no, you're not qualified to say that. That's where we got in the trouble now. What is the true battle here? Habermas gives you all these detailed descriptions about what's going on. It's to show you that he has this particular way of vocabulary to tell you that he's more authoritative than Foucault. Therefore, he has the power and the ability to tell you what is wrong with Foucault, what is right with Foucault, which is understandable. That's how things should be. But the question again is, does he? Does Habermas have that ability? Or he does, but he does not really deal with the issue. He always avoids the issue. That's something we really have to bear in our mind when we read this kind of stuff. Of course, for the ordinary people, you're already lost in this crowd of speaking subject. You think you are no matter what, because I have my rights. I have my individuality. You think that's real. No, they never give you anything. You don't want to accept that and never give you the power as a speaking subject. That's always true, but you don't want to take that. Accepting the truth, it's too painful. You are not a speaking subject. That hurts too much, undermines everything you believe who you are as an individual. But the truth is, you're not individual. You're a human being. You have nothing to do with so-called individual. You are somebody's wife or somebody's husband, somebody's lover, somebody's daughter, somebody's granddaughter. That's who you really are. Beyond that, you have nothing. And you are nothing. That's the only truth. But that's the only thing you don't want to accept. When you don't want to accept that, what happens? You become very lonely, powerless, because it's the family, that a particular social structural element, let's say, that it defines you as an individual. You are always somebody else, somebody. That's how you are defined. But you don't want that. You want this abstract self. You want this called a unique individual. I am a unique individual. That's what you want to be. But don't you ever think about this? If you are a unique individual, then what about the other individuals? Are they unique? You say, yes, they are. Then immediately you're not unique anymore. Because everybody is unique, and how unique you are. Now, if we're all unique, then basically we erase each other, right, at the end. So the only thing making you unique, that we're losing that, is this social tie. You're somebody's something, or you belong to somebody, or you belong to something. That's what defines who you really are, but that's the last thing you want in your life. So with this social structure, how do you think you're going to engage into any intellectual discourse? If you do, now obviously you become a virtual double, which Foucault already made very clear in the 1960s. And after almost, 60 years later, now we're still stuck in the same situation. And now here, Habermas thinks he's so unique, he's going to figure this out. Besides his academic power ties into the society, what else he has? He has nothing to offer in this particular view. If you look at that way, and then you look at his study, and then you look at the Foucault study, you begin to see why Foucault is Foucault and Habermas is Habermas. But again, I always remind you what Habermas' ability and uniqueness is, that he can tell you what Foucault is about, but you have to disregard what he thinks or what his critics on Foucault. That part you can disregard, because he's biased.